Come on.
Good to go. Yep, good to go. Yeah, all right.
City Council will come to order. Before I ask for the roll call, you recall that the previous clerk of council has resigned and is no longer with us. So at this particular point, I need to, by my position as chair of council, appoint Deputy Auditor Kim Davis as clerk pro tem for this evening. So let the record, that be noted in the record, and I'll ask Kim to please call the roll.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Here.
Hensley,
Here.
Howdeshell, Rogers,
Here.
Schmidt,
Here.
Whitaker.
Here.
Let's all please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Approval of the minutes. I think you all received the electronic transfer of the last meeting's minutes. Any additions or corrections? Seeing none, they will stand approved as presented. Approval of the current financial report. I think you have copies also emailed to you. Any additions or corrections, and I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Godwin to approve the current financial report from the auditor's office. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
And approval of the agenda. I have an addition to make to the agenda under the ordinances and resolutions will be item number 7, which will be simply a transfer ordinance. Also, at the conclusion of the call of council, we do have a need for an executive session. Under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G3, which is conference with an attorney regarding pending or threatening litigation. And that's all I have.
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Motion by Mr. Schmidt to approve the agenda as amended. Discussion? Call the roll.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
There are no specifically scheduled public hearings, but anyone wishing to address council may do so at this time. Come to the podium, state your name and address, and whatever it is you want to present to council.
Nominated me to go first. So
Hey.
I guess I'll break the ice.
There you go.
Matt Steyer, 226 East Harmon Drive, Greenville. So I'm here representing YOLO. Appreciate all your help over the last few years with the park. It's been a great public-private partnership, and really excited that it works so well with you all. So appreciate it. So I'm here tonight with a fundraiser idea for the park. As you're probably aware, we're still fundraising for the park. And we want to do maybe a fall event that's outside utilizing the park. An event that's thrown about of potentially doing is a fall festival of some sort. Fall Fest, not sure what it'll be called, kind of an Oktoberfest kind of theme event. A date was thrown out of October 18th on a Friday. And there's not a home football game that night, and there happens to be a Buckeyes game that night. Although Mr. Brand pointed out, I need to probably look into if a game were to be shown, there's any licensing or things like that. So I appreciate you that advice before it became something shut down before it was even started. So really, we're not stuck on a particular date. The idea was trying to do it when Greenville was not home for a football game. Also trying to work around some other fall events that were going on. So the concept would be a ticketed event. It would include a meal, buffet type Oktoberfest themed meal from the bistro. We would partner with them to use their back half. We would also want to use the park along with blocking off kind of the alley from 5th Street as well as Martin Street, so there wasn't any through traffic through that alley. Why I'm coming to you with this to see if we would have permission to do that. Because we would be wanting to sell alcohol and would include beer and wine at the event. We would apply for an F2 liquor license, and that would be a 30-day process that you have to apply prior to the event. It's YOLO's intention that the park would be turned over to the city by them thus making it a public property. So obviously it's been done in other communities before. Versailles just had, what was it, Fairfest up there. They shut down a couple interstates. Oktoberfest at Minster. What do you have, Poultry Days at Versailles. A lot of other communities. Troy has had some downtown events. So I know it's kind of new territory. It was on a private space. I don't think it would be as concerning, similar to what Barbecue and Blues did for the bistro, Barbecue and Blues did at the library at the lawn. However, that also used some city property. So I think events like Barbecue and Blues and the Gathering have proven that Greenville can handle events that alcohol is served. Again, this would be a ticketed event. It would be a 21 and up event. And, I think it'd be a great thing for downtown, and wanted to see if we could have your blessing to proceed forward and moving forward with the details of doing that. The reason why I'm coming here tonight is 30 days prior to a license for an F2 license, so this is probably the last council meeting that could happen if we would want to stick with an October 18th event. I feel like anything kind of later than that, weather kind of comes into play. We would have the bistro as far as some of that for a rain facility, and if it were to rain, to use the back half. So again, something that we're hopefully would love to start planning for, but also realize this is a critical first step, and we're asking for your help and support in making that happen. So thank you.
Would that take a piece of formal legislation that we would have to enact to do that?
Depends on the arrangement, if in fact the land belongs to the city by then.
Right.
That's the,
That's
if it doesn't, I suppose we should probably get some kind of approval, or even if it does, I suspect it probably would be better to have a resolution or something like that. So I think you take a vote to proceed that way, or support something.
Yeah, I think we should. When does the city schedule to take possession, I suppose, of the park?
I know there's been an issue with the uplighting from the trees. I know they've replaced twice now. It's the ballast that goes with those uplighting, and they're scheduled to be replaced one more time, or a fourth or a fifth, whatever it takes. The gutters are supposed to be finished by the end of this week. At least that's what I've been told. I know those were the two main things. Correct, is a heater too as well. So Philip is not here this evening, couldn't make it, but he's been kind of running with that. But I would hope in the next 2 weeks they would all be done. It's subject to one of those ballasts. That's the goofiest thing. I mean, they haven't worked right from the beginning. They replaced them. It's disappointing because those trees look great when they're uplit, but it's frustrating from us. Obviously.
No doubt by then it would be city park.
I know it's embarrassing that it wasn't done, but yeah, that's our hope that it would be turned over. I know the intention was those were the final checklist items, but gentleman that's working with the gutters, I think he can have those done hopefully by the end of the week, worst case early next week. I think some scheduling. We were trying to do these, to make a long story short, these half-inch kind of copper round gutters, and there was it was going to get to a further budgetary thing, and then there was availability, and then there was an issue of putting them up, so we just went back to a classic. It's a black, but it's a 6-inch large gutter, so it'll have plenty of, it would have looked a little better with the round, but it'll still look great how they are. So it is our hope that it's turned over prior to then. That's. I think if it's on private property, then we would more be asking for an alleyway usage, but I'm trying to plan for if it is turned over by then.
So basically, we have, you're talking the 18th. Yeah, there's actually 3 more council meetings.
So we have to apply for an F2 liquor license 30 days prior to the
I know.
event. So that's where I'm putting in ballparks today is the last.
So the next council meeting is the 17th.
Right.
So if we would come up with some legislation to pass, I'm just thinking out loud here as far as timing for him, you need to know by the 18th of September so you can.
I'm not familiar with the process as far as if it's as far as if you could literally submit it on the 17th to get approval by the 18th, 19th. So there was 30 days prior to the event. I'm not sure how that works, Jeff. So.
I'm sorry, did you mention that we could vote on it and then before
That's
the
my suggestion,
legislation?
is at least they give him,
Yeah, we just kind of want to know if it's
That's what
something
I
we
would
could
think.
plan on and at least get the ball kind of in motion, pending things. And if something were to happen with a license or something and we'd have to scrap it, then we scrap it. But we'd really like to really work hard over the next couple weeks on putting everything in place. And then if something were to happen, we could kind of peel back. But we'd love to start. You know, this was a critical step, we figured. So.
It was a good idea.
And like I said, this is kind of something we conceived within the last couple of weeks, and then it was like, okay, we need to get in front of council. And then when this 30 days came up, it's like, okay, I need to get in here this Tuesday. So, so that's kind of where we're at, guys.
Yeah, I don't remember how that was done whenever they did the OSU alumni and behind the palace. I don't remember what all we had to do on that.
it's kind of hard to compare that because it was in Ohio.
So what's this council's pleasure?
I think we need to go ahead. Go
I'm in
ahead.
favor of it. I don't
Well,
know
I'm
how
in
you need
favor of
to
Give me
word
a-
it.
I think
Motion?
a motion to permit them to proceed with their
I would make that motion to proceed.
motion by Mr. Hensley that we permit the
Sorry.
development group to, or what,
Yellow.
to proceed with their plans.
Is the date okay too?
October the 18th.
Yes.
That is the date we're looking at right now. If there were to be an alternate date, we would let
Yeah.
you know. I'm going to look into what Mr. Brand advised me prior to the meeting and said, hey, see if there's any licensing type things.
Yeah.
If that were to be a major issue, you know, would we tweak it to a weekend before? I don't know. We'll just kind of look at some dates. But then if we move it before, then we got to really get that license done. So tentatively October 18th. And we would alert you guys as ASAP if that would be a date change.
Okay.
Yep.
We have a motion on the floor. Further discussion on the motion? Call the roll, please.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Wicker.
Yes.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Matt.
Thank you.
Anyone else wanting to address council may do so at this time.
Richard Halley. My address is 526 Union Street. I had a real nice talk with Mayor Willman last week about what I'm wishing to tell you tonight. You know, I found it interesting when you began to talk about sidewalk policy a few months ago. And it was stated how we originally passed the sidewalk policy in '01, but then it was repealed. It was passed on your January 2nd, first council meeting of the year in '01, 5-2. John Burkett, you were there. You were one of the ones that voted against it. And you repealed it unanimously on your March 20th, 2001. And never did I read anybody mention how that happened. Why? And John, you're the only one who was there then, who's there now. But if at first you don't succeed, try again. And we tried back then, myself and others circulated that aspect of participatory democracy called the referendum petition. When you pass that, and you know, you have 30 days to get 10% of the voters that had voted for the governor. And if you can get, today that figure is 421 is 10% of the people that voted in Greenville for governor. 421 valid registered voter signatures. So you have 30 days to do that. The clock started this time when you passed that August 20th. You know, we passed petitions in '01. We deliver them to the city auditor as the law requires. And the city auditor, I believe, has, you all have like 10 days to examine them. And the process then is, if it goes like it's laid out, you would then give them to the Board of Elections, who would determine the validity of the signatures, you know, but that didn't happen in '01. That's when you decided, evidently, to repeal instead of taking it to a vote of the people. And I think the people back then, Mayor Raymond, Jeff Amick, Marvella Fletcher, oh, who was the service safety director? Hey, there was a lot of opposition to that. And the city was going to have to pay for the cost of putting it on the ballot. And nobody even act like that happened, you know. But I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Myself and others are circulating referendum petition for ordinance 1996. The title of that resolution is an ordinance establishing sidewalk regulations. So we have till the middle of September for the 30 days. I think this is critical, that it was a 3-3 tie vote. I think there's potentially a lot of destruction of trees that serve us with reduced utility bills, cleaner air. I'm for sidewalks. I love that 4th Street and such. But, you know, the city has yet to demonstrate to us, in my opinion, that you're really serious about replacing trees that are removed. There was a spring planting window when that project was still active. Taking down trees, paying for taking down trees, removing trees was part of that project. And there was a chance to plant trees this spring as part of the project. But, no, it's like an afterthought. And I hate to review the history, like when Main Street was new sidewalks and curbs and many trees taken down, and now we're back in like '04 or something, 3, somewhere around there. No money budgeted for trees. We've been stuck in this, acting like trees are not valuable, giving us many valuable services. If we take the trees down and have sidewalks, the sidewalks don't shade you. They don't lower your utility bills in the summer. The sidewalks don't purify the air. We need both trees and sidewalks. And we need to do it intelligently, especially at this time where we're having ever-increasing temperatures. Don't destroy, is what I say, the urban forest for the sake of sidewalks. So that's my primary reason, and you can see the minutes from '01 that when you're passing that, and I was there saying the same thing concerned. You know, I said this about it. You're going to increase the cost of living and decrease the quality of life around here to take down the trees. Costs go up. Any rate, I just wanted to let you know and let the public know that we are circulating. This would, if it runs its course, if we successfully get the signatures, get them to you. If you give them on to be, unlike last time, ascertained at the Board of Elections, because we were so late when this unfolded, this would be put off to the general election that would be on the 3rd of November, 2020. I have a feeling that history could repeat itself. Again, we'll see if we're successful getting the signatures. People can call me 548-3881. For some reason, I know I'm not the only one who, in spite of living here my adult life, having the same telephone number, I'm not in the book as it comes out. And that's happened to a lot of people lately. I've talked to a lot of people. Whoever publishes the phone book, no, you probably won't find Richard Howley in there, even though it's the same phone number for 50 years now. Hey, please don't spit any venom and be mad that we're just exercising what is available to us. It's not very often exercised, but it's part of our participatory democracy. It's part of, so we're going to see how it goes. I think there's a lot of people that could be saddled with, especially if you got a corner, you got sidewalk cost here, you've taken down your 2 shade trees, you're going to have a lot of thousands of dollars. And one more thing, I read a lot and everything. We've had 3 successive months now where that inversion of the 3-month to the 10-year, that signals recession. That's what's happened here lately. It's been 100% accurate in the past when you have 3 months of that inversion. And that's why I said to you, Mayor, that I was afraid. Institution of this, there could be people losing their property, unable to pay the assessments, along with the increase in their utility bills. And I don't think you really want that to happen. But if we do go into a recession, some people are saying because they didn't really fix things that caused the last one 10 or so years ago, that it could be even worse. So we are circulating, and that's what I came to tell you about. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address council may do so at this time.
My name is Bill Plessinger. I live at 218 North Broadway. I appreciate that my tree was cut down. I just had to throw that out there.
Watch out.
Don't care. The reason I'm coming, I live at 218, which is we just went through all the construction and, as I call it, the war zone this summer, and it does look great. But last summer, I had the opportunity to get my steps redone, pennies on a dollar. Somebody owed me a favor. I could have got steps done for next to nothing. I came up to the city building, talked to Chad, who's no longer an employee here, and we pulled out the plan. He said, don't do that. He said, nothing, don't do anything. He said, everything has to match. Don't do anything that's part of the plan, part of the project, were my steps, kind of like on 4th Street. So I didn't do anything to my steps. Well, 4 days ago, they do my sidewalk, and I said, what about my steps? Oh, we're not doing your steps. So currently, if you go, and some people know where I live, I'm going to use the words of Chad. I have a moat. I built a rock retaining wall 15 years ago, and where they put the sidewalk, which is beautiful, there's a 2-foot gap between the wall and my sidewalk. So right now that the cones are down, if somebody fell in that, I'd be liable because that's my property. Not only that, where the sidewalk ends, or where the edge of the sidewalk is to my step, they left a 2-foot gap. Nothing. I mean, it's literally a 2-foot, about 18-inch hole. I asked them what they were going to do. Oh, we're going to plant grass. Well, I know that the whole idea is to have some sort of continuity as you go down Broadway as you come into town. And I personally don't want to be the stupid-looking house that has a wall, grass, sidewalk, grass. That just doesn't make any sense. And to plan to put grass between my sidewalk and my steps, I don't quite understand. And I don't know if this is necessarily an issue. I just don't understand how last summer my steps were part of the project, and now it's not. I mean, I personally, I could have had it done last year for next to nothing, but I didn't because I was told not to. And now I'm back to square one. I have to replace my steps, plus I have to fill this gap because I do not want grass between the sidewalk and the steps. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense at all. And then I happened to notice today on the house, I won't say, I know who, this is the house that Beaky's used to own, the big house there all across the creek. They put the wall or the sidewalk all the way up to their retaining wall, but not my retaining wall. And I just find it very odd. And I don't know where to go before, I don't want to start tearing out my steps because I need new steps, but I don't know. I'm just very mystified by the whole thing of how 1 minute it was part of the project and then all of a sudden it was not part of the project. And if I'd have known that last summer, I would have had the steps already replaced. And now if I replace them, I'll probably have to do it. Well, I mean, I can somewhat do it myself with help, but I'm not going to get the same, that guy doesn't owe me a favor anymore. I cashed in on the favor for something else.
What'd you say your address was?
218 North Broadway. It's the second house, the alley that used to go to North School. I still call it North School. Second house.
Okay.
South of the old railroad track.
Thanks.
I mean, I took pictures. I mean, not that I'm going to pass. I mean, if you want to see it on the, it looks ridiculous. And I just don't know what the resolution would be. I mean, I just don't understand how they would have left it like that. I mean, I understand that the sidewalk had to go down a certain spot, but I would have thought putting that sidewalk in, they would have looked and say, that's kind of odd. There's a 2-foot gap there between the wall and the sidewalk. So I don't know. It just happened. Just so happens it's a Tuesday night. It's a great night for me. We don't have a football game. I can come to the meeting. I haven't been to a meeting since I was 8 years old complaining about Southside. So it's not something that I come here all the time about. It's just I don't understand what happened and what my next, because if I put in steps, it probably isn't going to match the sidewalk. And if I have ADC do it, I'm not going to spend $4,000. They give me a bid of like $5,500, it was ridiculous. And I'm not going to have them do that for that amount of money. So I guess I don't know where I go because my steps are going to cave in about a year. I mean, they're on its last legs. So I guess I don't know. I don't know if you can even answer it, but I just had to at least say my grievance. That's all I got.
Well,
And I thank you for the
I
time.
appreciate that, and it does put you between a rock and a hard place. I
Literally.
don't know that any member of council can speak to that, Bill, but I certainly hope the mayor and the safety service director could conjure up something for you. I don't know. I mean, that's their job,
Right.
so.
I mean, I just, like I said, I actually was promised they were going to be done last summer when I was going to do it, and then when they were going to do it, I mean, I've put off a lot of other work, waiting for the bike path and some other stuff, so like I can't really do my driveway until the bikeway path is done. But this is now, there's, I mean, 2 months we're going to have snow, and I'm going to have this, I love what Chad, I'm going to have a moat. I mean, I have a moat right now. And even if they plant grass, maybe I'm wrong, but wall grass, sidewalk grass, just to me that's not the way that you wanted it all to look. And I'm more than willing to do my part to make it look good, my property. I've been there 20 years. But it's just, I just don't know what happened.
What did we do with the other sidewalks and people who had ingress and egress through the sidewalk? They have pads to, did they cut them off there or put in new aprons, or what did they do to other people?
Right, where folks had approaches, we replaced the approach. Not everybody had that. Sometimes based on elevation, it matched up. Other times it did not. The city would install a small piece of concrete between the sidewalk and whatever was tore out. With this being an ODOT funded project, ODOT will not pay for any work outside of the right-of-way. Mr. Plessinger brought up the difference between where the Stebbins live, and that was just poured today, that the sidewalk went all the way up to the stone retaining wall. The reason that it did that, their stone retaining wall is actually in the city right-of-way, okay? Your steps and the 18 inches is a significant amount. that doesn't, I guess I don't know what Chad in your conversation was. But typically, in that type of an area, we would have only put a sidewalk.
Like I said,
Yeah.
I was
So
just going,
again,
like
and
I
I'm
said,
kind
and I
of-
know Chad's not
I'm
here
behind the eight ball
anymore.
here. I don't.
Right, oh, I
don't want that.
understand.
But I would be more than happy to meet with you next week or whenever you're available in the evening after school. We can meet, we can chat about it, and hopefully come up with some sort of resolution.
I mean, that's-
I would just, and I was going back to that right away with the stone wall. Their right of way is different than your right of way.
Oh, and
So
then
we just need to look
that
at
makes
it,
sense.
see where it all falls, and go from there.
Like I said, and that's fine. I mean, I literally saw the plan. Like was told this is part of it because on 4th Street they replaced many of the steps, the older steps that went up to houses around the curve. Because I actually just drove there on the way home from football practice to look, and several of the steps were redone. And I guess from what I thought was that's what was going to be done on our street. But obviously it wasn't. I just wondered, I don't know. And like I said, Chad could have been talking out of his,
Yeah, until I have the plans in front of me.
That's right.
All that.
and he's not here anymore, so it can't really refer back to him,
Right.
which I understand. I just, if I do the steps, then you go match sidewalk, because I'm not gonna have ADC do it.
Sure.
I mean, and I guess I could live with a grass strip between the wall. Well, the wall's not moving. The wall is a fortress. I had a car hit it and it bounced back. So we're not going to move that wall. And I'm sure they're not going to concrete a little strip beside the sidewalk. But yeah, I don't know. And like I said, if you all don't have a problem with me putting in a step that doesn't match the sidewalk, and I don't get grief in the city because this doesn't match ADC's concrete, I guess I wouldn't have a problem with doing it myself. But
Well, why don't we meet either later this week
Okay.
or give me a call and we'll figure out a time.
up here?
I'll meet you at your house.
Okay. Well, yeah, you can see it.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. Is just
That'd be cool.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it.
I go to football practice every day at 5:15.
Okay.
So I'll get a hold of you, or I'll
Yeah,
talk to your
you got
wife and have your wife
contacts.
text.
Yeah, I got contacts.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else wanting to address the council may do so at this time.
Dale Crandall, 105 Wellesley Court. The reason we're here tonight is to try and clarify something. Back in 2017, a letter was, I need to go before the letter. Contact was made with the mayor to tell us when we were going to get Wellesley Court resurfaced. A letter was sent to my wife in response, stating it was being promised for 2019. I bring to you a piece of our street. The street is all that way. And the city service director lives on Sunset between Radcliffe and Sugar Maple. It is the same way. It's falling to pieces in chunks just like that. We now have potholes as big as this and chunks of asphalt that look like little hand-laid bricks, all irregular shapes. They're about ready to flip up again and make more potholes. Now, we've got inclement weather coming. I also talked to the service director recently about this promise of 2019 paving. And I told him about the letter from the mayor. He said he didn't know anything about it, and he couldn't figure out why the mayor had sent out a letter with that content. I asked him to speak to the mayor. I haven't heard from the mayor. I left messages for the mayor at 2 locations, one with his secretary. I haven't received a response in regard to this issue. The thing that is very critical right now is that every one of our driveways, there's 8 driveways in that cul-de-sac, where cars back out of our driveways and then a line to go down the street out of the cul-de-sac. they are all crumbling at the end of our driveways. The blacktop. Because the cars coming into the driveway, the cars backing out of the driveway, the steering being rotated, they just loosen up all these fragments that are laying there. And the other issue really gets down to early in the year, this past year, there was a truck from the city came down across Sunset. The driver had some cold mix, and he put material in 2 holes on Sunset. Well, he didn't even get the one at the corner of Wellesley Court and Sunset. He stopped there, and he looked into Wellesley Court like, I wonder if I'm supposed to go down there. He went right on by. He didn't even get the intersection of the 2 streets on Sunset. It's like we don't rate. We're feeling like lost citizens. We have 8 families. We have 21 family drivers. We have babysitters. We have neighbors bringing in their teenagers to visit, girlfriends, boyfriends, kids home from college. At any given time, we can have as many as 28 different vehicles moving in and out of that Wellesley Court. There's only 8 houses there. Now, it's really a busy little street, and we have to turn around to go back out. We can't go through. I would like to recommend something, not telling anybody what they have to do or need to do. Get the air compressor out, come out and blow out all that loose stuff out of these holes and cracks. Come in with some hot mix, fill in those big holes at least, and give us a surface to drive on until whenever you decide you're going to do something. Now there's a rumor mill. 2020. Where the heck did this come from? Folks, when is Wellesley Court going to get some restitution? I don't know if the mayor's got the authority to mandate it, whether the service director has, or whether somebody on this committee here is deadheading it for another project. But we're in need. And I've got residents here right now that are ready to speak to this if you don't give us something tonight, or at least give us an idea of when we can meet or what's going to happen. Because this is since 2017, and we've only got a few more months, and it's 2020, and we don't know a thing.
Well, Mr. Crandall, the safety service director and the mayor and the zoning and planning people put together a list of what the...
We never saw it, John.
I don't care.
We never heard it.
I don't know whether you've seen it or not. I'm telling you, that's what they present to council, that these are in need and they have been graded, and that's what council goes by. We don't go out and check the roads. That's their responsibility, and we go on.
I served on that committee. You know that, Mr. Burkett.
Yeah, okay, and that's...
I used to go out and look at them too, and I would bring them to committee, and we would turn them in.
So,
I don't understand who's not doing their job, because we're deeply in trouble. And Radcliffe, the first block of Radcliffe on the west side, it's the same way. It's all busted up. Big chunks are coming off of it. Service director drives it every day. He has to put up with this himself. And if he doesn't have the power to make these decisions, somebody better get off their high horse. No, don't laugh at me.
Are you accusing this council of stymieing?
I'm not accusing any one person. I am trying to get answers. Because the answers we're getting don't mean anything because there's no plan to get us into this.
Well, there was a plan presented. I don't know whether you were involved in or included in it or not.
I mean, we're talking about,
There you are.
The thing we do every year, and particularly since the planning department, is all the streets are graded every year. And I think a year or so ago, we talked about it a little bit.
2 years ago we talked about it. Now it's going on 3.
And I understand your street is very bad, but it's not the only one in town. And when we get to the place we go to pave and present paving options to you, this is our plan to the city, to the council.
Where are we on the list?
Well, it dropped off.
It wasn't on according to the service director.
Well, it was on 2 years ago. And then it dropped down because other ones got worse than yours.
Well, we've already got a suspension that's ruined on one family van. We've got tires that are being tore up because when we park on both sides of the street, we have to drive through these holes. And if you don't understand how critical it is, I'm sorry, folks. Somebody needs to kick some butt. The other thing is we talked about many months ago, the tree that's on the corner of Magnolia and Broadway, you cannot see unless you get clear out into the access road or half of the road to see back either to the north or the south on Broadway when the trees are in full bloom. The one at Jeff Lewis's accounting firm, the one at Western Ohio. Western Ohio, if I pull out of the driveway at Western Ohio and look back towards the intersection at Broadway and Russ Road, you cannot see the light. You cannot see cars coming in from the north. Now, I talked to the service director and he and I said, well, if we could just, trim the trees. And I said, well, I could trim the trees, but, if I touch those trees, I'm not authorized. But they are a hazard. And they could be easily dug up, those 3 trees, and transferred to another site location. And maybe you could give them to Mr. Halley to designate where you'd want them put. But, I'm for trees, but we need to trim them up so we can see under them, or to trim them around so we can see around them. I even noticed that the truck drivers for the UPS and the other delivery services, FedEx, they are trying to pull out all the way to the solid white line on Broadway that's adjacent to the through traffic lane. And I mean, they're pulling their truck clear out there just to see up the street and down the road. So it is a hazard that needs to be experienced by other people than those that don't live there, that do live there. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to address council may do so at this time. Seeing no one moving forward, we'll move on to administrative reports. Mayor Wellman.
I just got one thing. As of last year, the Ohio Municipal League is having their annual conference coming up. And I think Jeff went last year, myself, John went. And, so I just wanted to bring it up. Anybody would think about like to go, contact Nancy and, or contact me. And, if you want to know a little bit more about it, what the schedule is, some of the events they have going on, so let us know about it if you'd like to go. So, that's all I got. Pass.
Thank you. Safety Service Director, Mr. Garrison.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. An item to follow up with you that is fairly an old item that we haven't talked much about. But earlier this year, late last year, we talked about nuisance abatement properties. And we have come to that time where Judge Hine has made an order in the favor of the city to clean up a property. Property address is 316 12th Street. This property has a lot of stuff on the front porch, and the back rear yard is, the majority of it is full of old bicycles. The property has a privacy fence around the backyard, somewhat making it difficult for the city. There's also mattresses and some other putrid debris that will have to be removed, and most likely we would use the limb loader. My reason for bringing this topic up is that if the city wishes to proceed with the order issued by Judge Hine, we will need some additional monies to do that, as we've not appropriated in monies to clean up properties. And I've had Ryan, they'll put together an estimate, and this is an approximate estimate, simply due to the bicycles and trying to estimate their weight as we would dispose of them. So we have $1,015 in labor, equipment rental, which would be our limb loader and probably a backhoe, $1,276.80, and the disposal fees, $2,112. Some odd cents in there for a total of $4,404.72. Let's call it $4,405. And that is strictly an estimate at this point, and we would not know what that total would be until we've incurred those charges and paid the bills. If we can pay a bill, we need to have money appropriated. So I'm asking council this evening if we could bring legislation at the next meeting appropriating the necessary funds to remediate this property.
Yes.
Where would, just a question for the auditor, where would that be coming from?
General
The
fund.
general fund?
General fund, there's a line item
Okay.
for property maintenance.
Is the house being occupied?
It is occupied
Is it
by an individual.
Is it a rental or is
No, it is a owner occupied,
So why are we paying to clean his yard up?
because he would not do it. That's how nuisance abatement works. We issue the nuisance abatement order to the property owner. We give them so many days to abate the nuisance. When they do not abate the nuisance, we file a motion with Judge Hine. I'm not sure if motion is the right word, but we make a filing with Judge Hine to file our case civilly. Judge Hine hears our case, and he issues an order. And the order that we were looking for was to be able to go in and abate the nuisance.
So when does this end?
When does what?
When does it stop? I mean, how many people do we clean their yards up for them?
Well, that's the nature of the beast with nuisance abatement. Whether it's an old rundown house or whether it's garbage on their property,
And they have no responsibility?
the dollars are then assessed to the property tax, and the likelihood of the city seeing that money is slim to none.
Slim to none.
Yeah, it's not everybody that pays attention to any orders to clean their properties up. It would be a beautiful world.
Well, it would be,
It would.
but you know, there's such a thing as being a responsible citizen, and that's all I'll say about that.
Has this guy showed up to court or?
He did. Well, I don't know, did he show up? Did he show up as? I don't think, yeah, I think this is the one he did not. There's another case where they showed up, but I do not believe
Has
it.
anybody talked to him about it or?
Oh, he's well aware. When Mr. Delk was out figuring and looking just to see how much stuff there was, he was somewhat belligerent and said that he would have it cleaned up. If he does, then we won't do it, but we have 60, the order gives us 60 days. That order was given, I I know right before the fair, this is the first council meeting that I can talk to you about it, but the clock is ticking, and then we'll have the next council meeting till the money's appropriated. So we'll only have somewhere between 15, 20 days at that point.
Now,
And
the money spent gets assessed to the property as an assessment on property taxes or as a lien?
As taxes.
As taxes, okay, good.
Does the privacy fence create a problem getting into it?
Well, we will have a police presence, and we'll be able to actually enter and go onto the property.
But we can get in trucks and vehicles in
Yeah,
there?
with a limb loader setting up high, it can actually reach over the fence, just a matter of getting it all back to it.
So at this point, I guess there's probably, I mean, obviously he knows about it already, the property owner. Does another notice get sent and say you've got so many days or we're gonna
No,
come in?
we're past that.
That we're-
Yeah, we're past that.
Gotcha. All right, well, I say move forward then.
Yeah.
It's not something new, it's just that this one is so
Right.
much more, you know, it's just,
Yeah.
it's expensive.
Sure.
And this is the process of nuisance abatement, whether it's cleaning up someone's yard, whether it's having someone fix up a house, tear down a house, whatever that may look like. The reality is, when we get to that point, the city is the one spending that money to complete the work. And the only remedy, if it's a remedy, is to assess the taxes and hope that in a sale or, you know, the property owner pays the bill, which is highly unlikely.
Very frustrating. And I'm not upset at you at all, Kurt. I guess this is just my first experience with it. I've lived in other areas that I guess never had to deal with that before. And it's just frustrating that someone can, and I'll say it, live in a house, in a neighborhood, on a street, within a city, as a citizen, and just let their property go to heck and expect the city to pay the bill to clean it up. It's ridiculous. And whoever that guy is, shame on him.
I'm in favor of, city going in there and cleaning it.
Yeah. For the neighbor's sake.
Sure.
And then I have just somewhat of an update. Seems like dragging some things out, and I apologize for that. We've been working with the consultant to wrap up some drawings, and things were finally submitted to the city late Thursday, early Friday, so I'll be forwarding them on to Mr. Brand in the very near future as it relates to moving forward with the sidewalks, the South Broadway project as far as the stamped concrete with the directional boring for the future lights on 3rd, 4th, and 5th Street, and then the documents necessary to prepare a resolution of necessity for Wagner Avenue. So all three of those, like I said, I've just received those drawings, and we're ready to put them before council for consideration, hopefully at the next meeting. And with that, Mr. Council President, if there are no further questions, I will pass.
Thank you. Law Director, Mr. Brand.
Can I rescind that pass? I just do want to follow up with something I believe Mr. Crandall left. We met with an urban forester, works for the ODNR. First name's Wendy. She came to Greenville. We were talking about 4 Schweitzer Street. And I'll just start with that one to give council an update. The Tree Commission is considering a special project, and by ordinance, they're allowed to have special projects. And Dustin Foster is an arborist who's on the Tree Commission, and he has put together a very neat plan for the 4th Schweitzer Street area, more 4th Street than Schweitzer, because Schweitzer, we have sidewalks that go all the way out to the curb, and there's really not a good tree lawn. But on 4th Street, and I mean, obviously we're yet to see it. I can only paint you the picture he painted for us during the meeting, and that was to use a variety of species of trees that would provide a very vibrant, colorful experience in the fall. So it's not all the same tree throughout. They're mixed up, and he was really excited about it. Kind of, we could feel that excitement in the meeting. And the plan, we have $4,000, $4,000 to $6,000, I think $6,000 appropriated under tree plantings. And it is our plan, and I know Mr. Halley alluded to the spring, it is our plan, and it has been our plan for the last couple of years, to go down to the auction at Brown's and purchase trees at a substantial discount, so that we get more bang for our buck. So we have that plan. We just met last week. Ryan has that list. The auction, I believe, is this coming weekend. We'll be going down, we're getting that ready,
14th.
and hopefully we'll.
The 14th.
Okay, the 14th. And we should be, by the end of the year, obviously the end of the fall season, we'll be getting those trees planted. So we are excited about that, and that will help bring our project to conclusion. And just for everyone else's edification, those trees were not a part of the ODOT project. Trees are being planted same way on South Broadway or North Broadway, and it'll be the same process. Those trees most likely will not get planted until this time next year. So that is our plan. And then also follow up with the trees on North Broadway. When Wendy came to Greenville and we looked at the Fort Schweitzer and she gave us some suggestions, I took her to North Broadway, and she alluded to the fact that smaller trees that we can prune and should not prune more than 10% of the tree on any given year. So I will tell you that I donated my time. Dean Flannery, who's also on the tree commission and lives just down the street, donated his time, and appreciate that. And went out there and we kind of shaped the bottoms of them. I don't know that before that they really had ever been touched. And we took what we felt was 10%, and Wendy gave me some advice, and I shared that with Dean. And we'll continue to do that process. And as we do trim from the bottom up, the intent is that will promote growth into that tree. So that's before we just started ripping the trees out, we wanted to give this a process and a try. And if it doesn't work, then we will. That solid white line that Mr. Crandall alluded to, that is the lane of traffic, and it does give motorists the ability to pull up and make a good decision before turning right or left, and somewhat takes the trees out of the field of vision, unless, of course, you are in a taller truck, and that does hinder that a little bit. Didn't create the situation, trying to make the best of it, and that's what we're going. We'll see if it works, and if it doesn't, then we'll look into relocating those trees. With that, I will pass.
For sure this time?
For sure. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Now, Mr. Brandt.
Before the meeting, I distributed all a copy of the newspaper article, which is on both sides, so please read that, and it's something in a future meeting I'd like to discuss. I've had contact with the powers that be in our police department. They're quite enthused with the idea. It's a minimal cost kind of thing, but can be a very helpful thing for a lot of different kinds of circumstances. So I encourage you all to read that, and hopefully next meeting, which I guess I should make mention, it appears that I will not be at the next meeting. My daughter has to go to another hospital over in Chicago that week. But hopefully by the first meeting in October, I'll be back and be able to discuss that with you. One other, I guess, item is I would suggest we all pray for Dory. She's got surgery coming up this week. With that, I will pass.
Thank you. City Auditor, Mrs. Wellman.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I shall pass this evening.
What are the dates of the OML again?
That, I believe, is, what is,
23rd, 25th of October.
Okay.
so,
24th, 23rd, 24th, 25th.
Okay.
and you can also contact me as far as getting
Okay.
information, as far as
All right, great.
getting tickets and stuff.
If anybody wants to see, I got a copy here. We'll check it out tonight.
That's it?
That's
Okay, thank you. Committee reports, we have none scheduled, and we have 7 to consider under ordinances and resolutions. So the first will be an ordinance establishing matching grant fund applications.
An ordinance establishing matching grant fund applications. This ordinance establishes matching grant funds to be operated by the Community Improvement Corporation for home improvements, financing assistance for homeowners of modest resources to double the amount of improvements to homes.
Make a motion to suspend the rules on this ordinance and read it by title only, second and third time.
Motion by Mr. Godwin to suspend the rules, read the ordinance by title second, third time. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
An ordinance establishing matching grant funds applications. An ordinance establishing matching grant fund applications.
Move to adopt the ordinance?
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the ordinance. Discussion. Call the roll.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
Next, we have an ordinance establishing revolving loan fund policies and procedures.
An ordinance establishing revolving loan fund and policies and procedures. This ordinance establishes a revolving loan fund to be operated by the Community Improvement Corporation for gap financing assistance for small businesses.
Move to suspend the rules and give this ordinance a reading by title only a second and third time.
Mr. Whitaker to suspend the rules, read the ordinance by title second, third time. Discussion. Call the roll.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
An ordinance establishing revolving loan fund policies and procedures. An ordinance establishing revolving loan fund policy and procedures.
Move to adopt the ordinance?
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the ordinance. Discussion. Call the roll.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Establish a resolution authorizing Safety Service Director to enter an agreement to purchase a, is it Sharpie mixer for the?
Sharpay, yeah.
Sharpay mixer for the water department. Sharpays are little dogs, aren't they? Or is that or is it a Sharpie like the pens that we're gonna mix up? I don't know.
Wiggly dogs, aren't they?
A motion.
I haven't read it yet.
Huh?
I haven't read the.
Oh, you haven't read the summary.
Mhm.
Thank
I
you.
haven't read anything.
Okay.
You read it, but that's okay. A resolution authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into an agreement to purchase a Sharpay mixer to be used by the Water Department. This resolution authorizes the Safety Service Director to purchase a Sharpay mixer from Walker Process Equipment for the use by the City Water Department.
Make a motion to suspend the rules on this resolution and read it by title only, second and third time.
Motion by Mr. Godwin to suspend the rules, read the resolution by title, second, third time. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
A resolution authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into an agreement to purchase Sharpay mixer to be used by the Water Department. A resolution authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into an agreement to purchase a Sharpay mixer to be used by the Water Department.
Move to adopt the resolution?
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the resolution. Discussion. Call the roll.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
Okay, next we have a resolution to accept amounts and rates determined by Budget Commission and authorize and certify tax levies.
A resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. This resolution accepts the amounts of the rates of the tax budget for the fiscal year commencing January 1, 2020, and as established by the Dark County Budget Commission.
Move to suspend the rules and give this resolution second, third reading by title only.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to suspend the rules, read the resolution by title, second, third time. Discussion. Call the roll.
God's gonna read it again. Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
A resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. A resolution accepting the amounts and the rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to this county auditor.
Motion to adopt?
Motion by Mr. Whitaker to adopt the resolution. Discussion. Call the roll.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
Did everybody sign this? I believe so. Everyone has to sign it.
All 3 copies?
Uh-huh. Yes, we go to the county.
Okey dokey.
You have to sign once and then they all have to sign it.
Yeah.
I'll just put absent for Lori then. So unless the rules have changed since the last time I did it, you have to do them all.
Now there's a section here that's on the second page where it says, please indicate name. Okay, so
I will
you
type
can
those
fill
in.
that.
Yep,
Okay,
I'll make
okay.
sure that those are votes, or those are the votes, and
Okay.
I'll fill that part in.
All right. Gotta get all the legalese done here. All right. So there's a place on 3 pages for you to sign a member. Just, all you have to put your name, not how you voted. That's taken care of on another page.
There's 3 copies.
There's 3 copies. Okay, now, next, we have a resolution authorizing reimbursement for a sewer cleanout expense.
A resolution authorizing reimbursement of sewer cleanout expense. This resolution authorizes reimbursement of cleanout expenses in the amount of $900 to Ron and Julie Kirk and Scott and Brandy Stastny for the installation of a sewer lateral cleanout incurred by them prior to the North Broadway infrastructure improvements.
Move to suspend the rules and give this resolution a reading by title only, second and third time.
Motion by Mr. Whitaker to suspend the rules, read the resolution by title, second, third time. Discussion. Call roll, please.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
A resolution authorizing reimbursement of sewer cleanout expense. A resolution authorizing reimbursement of sewer cleanout expense.
Motion to adopt?
Motion by Mr. Godwin to adopt the resolution. Discussion. Call roll.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
And next, we have a supplemental appropriation.
An ordinance to make additional appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Greenville, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019. This supplemental authorizes an appropriation in the general fund for dismissed court cases in the amount of $2,800, healthcare premium general fund in the amount of $1,500. These requests were both needed in the excess, to cover an excess in the budget of 2019. It also authorizes equipment maintenance for the fire department in the amount of $1,920. This request appropriates monies received from the Marks Grant.
Make a motion to suspend the rules on the supplement ordinance, read it by title only, second, third time.
Motion by Mr. Godwin to suspend the rules, read the ordinance by title, second, third time. Discussion. Call roll.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
An ordinance to make additional appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Greenville, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019. An ordinance to make additional appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Greenville, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019.
Move to adopt the the supplemental appropriation.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the ordinance. Discussion. Call roll.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
And last, we have a transfer ordinance.
An ordinance for the transfer of funds among the appropriations of various funds of the City of Greenville. This transfer ordinance authorizes transfers in the following funds. The street fund from professional service to traffic control to the utilities in the amount of $700. The sewage disposal fund from equipment maintenance to the healthcare premium and from professional counsel to utilities. and the park fund from utilities to office supplies in the amount of $600.
Make a motion to suspend the rules on this ordinance and read it by title only, second and third time.
Motion by Mr. Godwin to suspend the rules, read the ordinance by title, second, third time, discussion. Call the roll, please.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
An ordinance for the transfer of funds among the appropriations of the various funds of the city of Greenville. An ordinance for the transfer of funds among the appropriations of the various funds of the city of Greenville.
Move to adopt the ordinance?
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the ordinance, discussion. Call the roll, please.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Send that down that direction.
Okay, here you go.
That concludes our ordinances and resolutions. We have nothing under old business. We have one item under new business. Transfer liquor permit.
For the liquor
Or not a, I'm sorry, not a transfer. It's a renewal. isn't it?
It's a renewal for the liquor permit, Division of Liquor Control Permit from Eikenberry's Food Liners on 1120 Schweitzer Street. And I did receive a letter from the chief today stating he has no objections to the renewal.
So either we have to request a hearing or not request a hearing.
I move that we not request a hearing.
Request.
I agree. Motion by Mr. Rogers to not request a hearing. Call the roll, or discussion, any discussion on that item?
Not on that, but I do have a question on the renewal. Why is renewing at this time of year when,
It's
is this something
corporate.
special?
It's a change in corporate stock of ownership.
Okay.
That's
Is
it.
Okay.
Not,
The rest of the permits for the
All
rest of
renewed
the
at
city
once.
all
Yeah.
go at
Yes.
the same
Yeah.
time, so, okay, thank you.
uh-huh. Okay,
All right.
everything's still good?
Further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Nope.
Those are all signed? Great. Communications, what
I just
communications?
have the cities and villages magazine for July and August was distributed.
For OML,
Yes,
okay. Anything further?
that's all I have.
Call down the council, please.
Right.
I'll pass.
Godwin?
Had a person call and kind of wanted to know what was going on with Vector and gas lines today. They said that the city's not letting them do anything in the right of ways. So just kind of want to ask her what's going on.
That is a correct statement from the standpoint that utilities, Vectren, DP&L alike, Time Warner or Spectrum Cable, any utility that has the opportunity or availability to install their utility in the city right-of-way is required by city ordinance to obtain a right-of-way permit. And with that permit, we call them street openings, comes a bond. Specifically for the utility, the minimum that they purchase at a time, and I don't want to say yearly, but at a time, it is a $40,000 bond. They attain the $40,000 bond from their insurance company, and that entitles them to 20 street openings. Vectren has been lax in turning in a bond to the city for those street openings. And it happens that they'll slip one or two in, and we'll catch them doing work and go out and say, well, where is this? Or not, we know where it is, but you didn't go talk to Janelle and get the permit and apply for the street opening. And it finally got to a point where Kim and Janelle and myself have been in communications with council, more so Janelle and Kim, literally for weeks, in trying to bring this issue to a resolution. And finally, we said we will not be issuing any more right-of-way permits to you until you supply the appropriate bond. I believe they turned in a bond last week and it had improper dates. So the bond was refused and they need to submit the right thing. It's not that we won't let them, it's just that they're not,
Not playing by the rules.
exactly. And our rules are not, our rules are not any different than going to any other municipality and working in the right-of-way. And this council passed special legislation for the Bear Steel program. Now, that bond and those permits are obtained by their subcontractor, Ritter. They had the information to our office the next day. They were prepared. So this is not a cumbersome process. This is a standard process. And why it's an issue, I cannot answer that question. But I, just want to reiterate, and Kim can chime in if I missed anything. It is our policy. It's not an unreasonable policy, and they have not done what is necessary. And as soon as they do what is necessary, they will be given the street opening permits. So.
Very good.
Yep, thank you. Good job, Kim. And with that, and thank everybody for coming up that's still here. And I'll pass.
Hensley.
I will pass.
Rogers.
I'm gonna pass also.
Schmidt.
Pass.
Getting easy on me today. Whitaker.
Pass.
President Burkett.
Pass.
Wow, thanks.
Ain't it easy?
Well, good job, Kim.
Yeah. Yes, thank you for filling in. She is eagerly anticipating news from her daughter.
Congratulations, I think.
Gonna
Thank
come
you.
a Nana.
Again.
Right, again. So that's cool.
Need a motion?
Nothing further. We have to, I would entertain a motion that we rise to executive session for the purpose of discussing matters under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G3, which is conference with an attorney regarding pending or threatening litigation.
Motion to rise.
Motion to rise by Mr. Hensley. Call the roll, please.
Wright.
Yes.
Godwin.
Yes.
Hensley.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
We'll stand in short recess while we shut down the TV and clear the chambers.